what's going on? It's your boy Turnip, and welcome back to another Halo Wars video. Today we're going to delve into the enemy AI, more specifically the automatic AI, and find out what makes them tick. So they are supposed to progressively get more difficult and more difficult each time you beat them. Make sure you stick around to the end of the video too. I'm going to run a little experiment with them also. Sorry about that, a grunt tripped on the extension cord. But anyways, let's take a look. So my buddy Prog sent me a link to an old forum about Halo Wars. It was discussing the automatic AI, and it claimed that the AI only will really increase depending on how many more resources you gather than the opponent. So what I did is, for most of my matches, I was Brute on Blood River. Blood River has the 2 resource hooks that the Brute can immediately take for that extra cash, plus the 2 bonus reactors. I picked 1v1 standard just so I didn't have to deal with as many AI. And I picked Anders because she has the weakest early game versus the Brute. She doesn't have heavy supply pads like Forge does. Also, she does not have the fortress base like Cutter. So she was our target. The auto AI has a number scale difficulty system starting at 0, ending at 200. So I want to try to get my way to 200 if possible. I haven't seen it before. Maybe I missed it, but that's my goal. So my strategy was to essentially bleed out the AI and drain them of all of their resources and let them sit there while I take all the bases and just stack up as much cash as possible. I quickly learned that the more cash you stack, the easier it is to rank up the AI. If you just defeat them normally, you might get 2, maybe 3 points, but more often than not, when I stacked tons and tons of resources, I would go up 8, 10, 9 points every time. The AI just gets really difficult past the 130 mark. They earn more resources than you. It seems like their buildings and their units will just produce faster than you. So you have to really be on point or you will get overwhelmed by a Tech 1 wave of these monstrously strong units. So little by little, I started to chip away and play some games here and now and started grinding it out. As I played more and more, I came to realize the AI is fairly predictable after level 150 or so. There's about 4 variations for Anders. I'm not sure if this is the same for the other UNSC, but this is how it goes. So there are 4 build orders, or 4 real possibilities that could happen. Well, 3, actually. The worst possible option is when you start the game up and you're going about your build, you hear the AI assistant or the announcer say, "Our adversary is expanding their production capacity."
Our adversary is expanding their production capacity. They are vulnerable to an early attack.
That is awful. What that means, they went barracks first and they're trying to take an expo. Well, why is that bad, you say? So it's bad for my strategy. And the strat is to immediately take your Brute over to the opponent's base and start hammering away on buildings and taking out supply pads as they're being created. With the barracks already being built, the flamers are just going to start pouring out, and you're really not able to fight their units with yours. They're just too strong. The next possibility is our adversaries building up their defenses.
Leader slowly and building up their defenses. We will have time to prepare.
Which means that they're going to be going 4 turrets all around their main, and obviously you cannot attack into that with your Brute. At this high of a difficulty, it will just shred all of your units. And top that off with, they have a barracks. It's awful. This is a little easier to deal with long game because they don't have the fast expo. The fast expo is the worst to deal with because they start double pumping units and getting vehicle depots up It's just not okay. So the final build, there's two options. If you hear nothing, if the announcer says nothing, they're going to be going this build. Or if you hear our adversary is planning an early attack, that is actually, ironically, a good thing, because the AI for Anders, for whatever reason, at this level, will not go into tier 2 units unless you hear this build. They will always build a barracks. They will always just build infantry and gremlins. Unless you hear early attack, then they're going to bum rush for either a vehicle depot or an air pad, and they will skip the barracks entirely. This is great because you can take the brute immediately over to the Anders base, and you can stop the 4th supply pad from coming up. And more often than not, the 5th building will be their 2nd reactor. And they usually don't build turrets at this stage, so you can just drop in brutes, stop the buildings from coming up, and then farm them for those points. Now let's get into my overall strategy and what I did to try and raise my rank up. So always temple first, no questions, as the brute. Immediately run for my money hook, take that. And then dependent on what the AI announcer would say, that would be my next move. So if we've got the turrets, or if we have the expansion, I'm going to immediately start checking into locusts. I found locusts were the most reliable tool to take down the AI. Just in the early game, I never let them get a base, so I never had to worry about hornets or scorpions or any sort of late game unit. I was really only dealing with Spartans, flamethrowers, marines, and warthogs. The scariest of all of these was the Spartans. Now the Spartans are stupidly strong, and they also can hijack your locusts, which is awful. So to counteract this, I got Birthright on my chieftain to pull the Spartans every time I saw them, and I always decked my chieftain out with probably 5 or 6 engineers, just to be like a bullet sponge almost. You gotta watch out for cryo bombs, and you gotta watch out for a lot of flamers too, because they can kill your chieftain, and you can get overwhelmed very, very quickly. Turrets are a good idea on your base, as well as shields. I recommend shields. Keeping some engineers around the base to heal turrets and your main buildings, that sort of thing. So to farm the levels, you don't want to just kill the AI straight out if you can. You want to strip their buildings down, like I was saying earlier, and just kind of milk them for time, really. You need to get as much resources as you can, because the more resources you have or have gathered versus what they have gathered is going to determine how many points you go up. If you win, if you kill the AI, that's a guaranteed 1 point. And from what I can see, or what I can assume, it's not an exact measurement, but if you have at least, if you've gathered at least 3 times or higher the amount of resources your AI has, you are very, very likely to gain multiple points, 5 or more. And I'm not just talking about your bank, how much you have in the bank. I'm talking about gathered. So you can't let your AI have any supply pads, because if they are gaining supplies, that is just driving up that margin. And as we were discussing earlier, they gain more money than you. They're literally cheating, and they're gaining supplies at a faster rate. So you have to stop that to make the difference as big as possible. So you can see here Sergeant Forge wrecking my shit. Level 181 Cyclops are just monsters compared to my 1 Locust and a few Brutes. That's definitely why I did not pick Forge to play against. I did not want to deal with building killers in Tier 1. And you can see I went down about 6 points for that rage quit. So I kept grinding and hot dropping those brutes wherever I could. Eventually I got to 197, and I eventually got it. We got up to 2 hundo, boys. It was not as difficult as you would think. I mean, I definitely abused the system, you could say. I made it as easy as possible for myself. But hey, I was just using the tools the game gave me. I used no cheats or anything like that. Alright, here's a treat for y'all. So I set up a scenario. I wanted to see how long I could survive against 2 automatic AIs at level 200 with all skulls on, playing as the Prophet of Regret. So I booted up Terminal Moraine and I got to work. So the skulls I turned on were only the difficulty skulls. I did not turn on any bonus skulls like extra supplies or more damage, etc. So we only buffed our AI just to see what the effects would be. So my plan was to take the sides, take the little island base here, and just try to hold out as long as I could. The Mighty Prophet, you all know, very strong defensive unit, very intimidating. As I was getting myself established, I noticed my ally Prophet, what are the odds, right, was kicking some ass and taking some names, just built 1 million honor guards, as he should be doing. They all had stars too because of that veterancy skull. And I was just not assisting him, just setting up my fortress, my island fortress. I was soon discovered and they tried to bum rush me, and I had to frantically get some more jackals out here. They are just so damn strong. Look at those jackals. They don't even die from a beam. I had to pull back here into my turrets and try to hang on a little bit. Thankfully, they ended up retreating for some reason. Probably frightened, you could say. I noticed my AI compadre was doing a little too well, so I decided to rob him blind, steal all his money, so we could kind of even the fields out a little bit. He was just wrecking house across the map here. And what kind of turtle would it be if I did not queue up a scarab? So of course we did that, and we got the engineers upgraded as well. Now at this point I was feeling pretty confident. My Prophet ally had gained a 2nd star and he wiped that base out at the cost of both of his other bases. But you know, we gangsta. So yeah, I'm pretty much maxed out, and I'm just waiting for my first real engagement here. Feeling like I can take on the world. And he finally got defeated, so now I was just all on my own. And they immediately were planning an attack. I don't know where because I had no mini-map, but I'm assuming this base. First sign of trouble hits, my Scarab starts making love to those enemy units with his love beam and bubbles. It's a great effect, isn't it? And just look how long it takes to kill those jackals. That's insane. Oh my god. Alright, the bridge is finally about to come back on. And I'm ready for the horde.
Our adversary may be preparing to assault this base.
Scarab's going hard in the paint over here. I needed to get my Prophet out of there. Those beam rifles were tearing him up. The cryo came in. And here comes the waves. Look at how much damage those hunters do. They're just absolutely melting my Scarab, and there's only like 3 of them. Like 4 of them, and here comes a Scorpion tank, and it's just, my Scarab is already dead. I'm in full panic mode here. I decide to queue up another Scarab and send these vampires back, try to put some work in. Stasising them doesn't even work. It just kind of holds them in place while the others shred everything else. Yeah, this is an absolute shit show massacre here. This is the ultimate Halo Wars difficulty. We have found it. Lasso 200 automatic AI. Maybe in the future we will see some more attempts at this challenge. This is, I would say, the final boss of Halo Wars. But you can see these units do not play around, even with 2 shields. There's so few of them, and it's just, they are stupid damage. stupid amounts of damage. Well, everyone, that's gonna wrap up the end of this, whatever this was. So thanks for sticking around. Thanks for checking out this video. Be sure to stop by a stream one of these nights. They're gonna be every Saturday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, I'm your boy Turnip. Subscribe if you like. Thumb it up if you'd like. But I'll catch you on the next one. Peace. Also, quick viewer shout out.